The Ford Maverick got some pretty exciting changes for the 2025 model year. There's a new trim level, the Tremor package has been separated out to its own beast, there's new technology on the outside and on the inside, and in this video you're going to learn everything you need to know about the 2025 model. Before we get started, I do want to thank Formula Ford in Pickering for giving me access to this truck in order to shoot the video for you guys. You can find all of their contact details and then build details for this Maverick down in the description. Pricing for the 2025 Maverick is slightly different year over year, starting off at $36,800 up in Canada and then $28,600 down in the US, depending on how you have it configured. Are you in the hybrid? Are you front wheel or all-wheel drive? And then which trim level you have. So there are a lot of things that go into it. You can get away with a pretty cheap XL if you're just looking for a bare bones truck, but outside of that, the Tremor package is going to be fully loaded. This one is the XLT, and it's in the Oxford White. And it's also got the XLT Luxury package, which brings a couple other unique features that you wouldn't find in the truck otherwise. There's one exciting change that came to the available drivetrain for the 2025 Maverick. In previous generations, the hybrid was only available front-wheel drive, but Ford's opened that up now so that you can get the hybrid in either front-wheel or all-wheel drive. And then when you look at the 2-liter engine, like what this one has, you're looking at an all-wheel drive system. And then the Tremor package, as always, has the advanced 4-wheel drive system, which is going to be very similar to what you're going to find inside of the Bronco Sport Badlands. So, if your plan is to actually take the truck off-road, it could be worth looking at the Tremor package, because not only are you going to get some off-road tuned suspension, you're also going to get front skid plates, tow hooks, and so many other great features. As always, you're going to find different wheel sizes and styles, so 17, 19-inch wheels, and then Ford also has the new Lobo trim level with its own unique wheel setup. The front end style of the Maverick is relatively unchanged. You're still going to find LED headlamps inside of the ride, different style grills depending on the trim level, and then that same black style follows along the lower part of the bumper. Technology-wise, in the front end is what separates the 2024 from the 2025 models. So the 2025s now have the option for a full 360 camera. Finally! On top of that, there's also the option for the forward sensing system. I love that Ford's introduced the 360 camera inside of the Maverick lineup. The only downside is that you're only going to find it in the higher trims. So the XL, XLT don't have it available no matter which packages you add on. Underneath the hood of the Ford Maverick, there are still two different engine choices that are available. So there's still the hybrid engine, which is a 2.5 liter, naturally aspirated, and it's a traditional hybrid, so no plug-in capabilities, just there for better fuel economy. But then you've got this, the 2-liter turbocharged inline 4 that pushes out an impressive 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. I love the power inside of the 2-liter EcoBoost. If power's your thing, you're going to want to go this route. If you're looking for the best towing capacity, you have to go for the 2-liter engine as well. But if towing's not a big deal, you want better economy, the hybrid is a pretty good choice. The hybrid version of the truck has a CVT, so a continuously variable transmission, so it doesn't have a set number of gears. The regular 2-liter EcoBoost in most trim levels of the ride has an 8-speed automatic transmission, but inside of the Lobo trim, you're looking at a 7-speed quick shift automatic transmission. So it changes up the shift points, makes driving it a little bit different in comparison to the regular 2-liter EcoBoost. So if you want something unique, the Lobo could be for you. And then under the hood, unchanged otherwise, so easy access to the battery to the right. You can change your oil, and then you can also top up your wiper fluid to the left. Looking at the warranty inside of the Ford world, that's also unchanged. So your basic is a 3-year, 36,000 mile, 60,000 kilometer. Powertrain gets bumped up to 5 years, 60,000 mile, 100,000 kilometer. And then your hybrid electric components, if you're in the hybrid version of the truck, is going to be for 8 years total coverage. But do yourself a favor, take care of the truck, regular scheduled maintenance, regular oil changes to get the best possible life out of your ride. The side view mirrors inside of the ride, this one doesn't have the blind spot monitoring system, but that is available as an option. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side, it would highlight there to let you know. Across the lineup, the side view mirrors are manual folding. There's intelligent access too, so as long as you've got the key fob on you, Tap there to lock the doors. Slide your hand in order to unlock. There we go. Let's get on the side here. So you've got your unlock lock buttons, handle, and then these controls are the same across the lineup. So your side view mirror controls, window controls with some storage. There are 2 different speaker choices available inside of the Maverick. It's either going to be a 6-speaker system, like what we're looking at in the XLT, or there's the optional 8-speaker Bang & Olufsen system in the higher trims. These are the cloth seats you're going to find in the ride that are power adjusting. So 8-way power, forwards, backwards, up and down, adjust your backrest, and then multi-way lumbar support. Now this is where things are different. Still push button start. Taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford Maverick. Now, there is just a single screen choice that's available this year, and this one is for the 2025 plus models. So you've got that nice fully digital cluster screen that's available. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know. First thing is that the steering wheel inside of the ride might be heated, and if you've got the heated option inside of the infotainment system, there's a button there that you can push in order to turn on the heated steering wheel, and there's also the option for your heated first row seats. But the steering wheel is heated all the way around. Now you'll notice there that there's also a little message inside of the cluster, so if you ever get any messages there, if you hit the OK button in the middle of the wheel, that's going to turn off or get rid of any sort of notifications. Steering wheel is going to be manual telescoping, so by your left knee, there's a release there to go in, out, up and down. Once you find that perfect position, click it, lock it back into place. So many different buttons and stocks, so let's go for the left side first. So you've obviously got your blinkers there. There's a button on the tip of that stick, and that's to turn the lane keeping system on or off. Inside of the infotainment system, there's the flexibility of adjusting that feature, so you can have it go 3 different ways. So the first one is an alert and the aid. So for the mode there, so the alert, what that one's going to do is that if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it's going to give you a little steering wheel vibration, almost like you're running into rumble pavement. The second one, the aid, is going to nudge you back into your lane, and the alert and the aid will do both. So you get a steering wheel vibration, and then it's going to nudge you back into your lane. So it's a pretty good safety system all around, but you can toggle that off if you want to by pushing the button again on the tip of the left stick. You can flash your high beams out too, but down by your left knee, there are a series of buttons, so you could toggle your bed lighting on or off. You can figure out what's going on with your running lamps. So I normally just recommend keeping yourself in the auto mode. When you're in the auto headlamp mode, you can't permanently lock your high beams out. You've got some different light modes there, but when you get into the headlamp mode, you can then push away in order to toggle your high beams on, so lock them on, or pull towards you in order to turn them off. It's just that in the auto mode, you can flash your high beams, you just can't permanently lock it out. So what happens in the auto mode is an auto high beam. So if the vehicle recognizes the high beams are needed, they come on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. You want to be in the auto mode the majority of the time, but you've got some options there. And then you've got the flexibility of increasing or decreasing the brightness of the cluster if you'd like. The stick along the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers. If you go into the one-up mode, so it's an intermittent mode, you could then use the little rocker in the middle in order to go faster or slower. And then you've got your super fast modes. Then you're just going to pull towards you to get that wiper fluid going. And so many different buttons. Now, this one doesn't have the available Copilot 360 Assist 2.0 package, so that one is going to give you adaptive cruise. So this is just a traditional old school cruise control. So you toggle it on this way, and then from there, you could push down or push up to set your speed. You could then increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the X button to cancel your speed too. Then, straightforward from there. And as mentioned, there is the option for the adaptive cruise control system too. And that's your set it and forget it cruise control. But if you want to walk through on the cruise control system and adaptive cruise specifically, you'll find that down in the description of this video. You can adjust your volume this way. You can mute out your audio here too. Along the right-hand side, a series of other buttons. So you've got a voice command prompt where you'd be able to do things like change radio stations. You can adjust your climate using your voice. And then on top of that, if you had factory navigation, you could navigate that way. If you had a phone connected through Android or iPhone, so Android or iPhone devices, you can push and hold this button in order to be able to activate your Siri or Google Assistant. You can change songs or stations this way, answer or hang up on a phone call, and then you can also push and hold in to act as a seat button. From there, you can adjust out your different modes. And then you've got a few other buttons here, and that's to navigate through the cluster screen. Inside of the cluster screen, you've got your current engine temperature along the left-hand side, along with your RPM gauge there. Along the right-hand side, you've got your fuel gauge, and then whether or not the driver's seat belt is plugged in, yay or nay. You've got your current direction that you're facing, along with your current vehicle speed. If you've got the lane keeping system on or off, it's going to change up the look of the screen a tiny little bit. Interesting. But along the bottom side there, you can also see if you've got your cruise control system set, yay, nay, along with your current odometer, outside temperatures there, along with whatever drive mode that you're currently in. So whether that's sport mode, if we go back to like an eco mode or normal drive mode, etc. You've got the gear there, so park, reverse, neutral, drive with the auto start stop system. So you could toggle that system off if you wanted to. The downside for the auto start stop system is that every time the truck is turned off and then back on again, you've got to disable that switch. From there, you can see your current fuel level that way too. So you've got your fuel gauge this way or that way. So you've got options there. And then if you hit the buttons along the outside here, so you've got your back button, you can move up or down between different screens, and then you've got a menu button along the top right-hand side of the steering wheel. So if you go to your My View, that's your My View here. So if we configure it, it's which options do you want showing up? So your trip counters, fuel economy, things like that, if you had navigation available, etc. So if we move back for a second here, and then back again, so we're on our My View screen. So if you use this switch to go up or down, that brings you between your different counters. So you've got your trip 1 versus trip 2 counter. If you hop back inside here, you could hop into your My View to go to different things. If you wanted your fuel economy screen, you could go that route. You could push and hold the middle button, the OK button, in order to reset. And that's the same thing across the board. So for your trip counters, you want to reset that, go to either trip 1 or 2, press and hold the OK button. That's going to recenter you out. Moving down, you've got your current station that you're listening to, your compass view. So if you had factory navigation, that would be a little map as well too, so turn-by-turn directions. And then you've got your available tire pressure. Hitting the menu button again brings you into a few other options. So you've got your basic towing screen, so your light status, towing status, etc. Back to your status info for seatbelts. So if you've got multiple people in the vehicle, it can let you know whether or not their seatbelt's actually plugged in. And into vehicle maintenance. So if you're doing things yourself, specifically if you're changing oil yourself, you could reset that counter. And then you've got available tire pressure. So you'll find a few of these things, a few different spots. One down gives you your audio, so you can move between all of your available sources. So AM, FM, SiriusXM. If your phone was hooked up, if you had a USB stick with MP3s on there, that would show up too. And then you've also got available settings. So actually on the back screen, there we go. Phone is currently grayed out, and that's because I don't have a phone connected. But if you did, that would pop up with some additional options, specifically making phone calls. And then you've got some screen content and then different views. So you can also add in a secondary speedometer. So if you're going cross-border, you can go kilometers, miles, and that goes either way. And then you can also figure out whether or not you want nothing showing up or your tachometer on the left gauge there. I'm a bigger fan, actually, I'm going to put that back. I'm a bigger fan of having that tachometer there. And then there was one other one. There we go, your classic view. So you've got your digital speedometer or the rounded speedo gauge instead. So if we hop back now to the home screen, yeah, there we go. I think I'm a bigger fan of that one. Look at that. So as you start to drive, you've got your tachometer still left to the left-hand side, and then you've got your more traditional speedometer in the middle. And then back out. Oh, what do you think? Classic view, rounded gauges versus the digital speed only. I think I'm a bigger fan. Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of having that full gauge there. But that one comes down to a matter of personal preference, but outside of that, there's no way that you can adjust the cluster screen out, so it is what it is there. But looking at the size, interior spacing, I should say. So I've got the seat as far down as it's going to go. Actually, let's do this. Up overhead with me sitting fully upright. Yeah, there we go. Boatload of space. So I've got 3.5, no, more than that, like 4+ inches of headspace. I'm 6 feet tall. So if you're 6'3", 6'4", teetering on 6'5", you'll probably comfortably be able to sit inside of this ride. There are a few different types of seating material available. So it's either going to be cloth seats like what we're looking at in the XLT, and then there's the ActiveX seating material, which is a faux leather seat in the higher trims instead. Taking a peek at the Sync4 infotainment system inside of the Ford Maverick. This is for the 2025 Plus models. If you're in one of the previous gen versions, so the Sync 3 or the regular Sync systems, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on that older system instead. But let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. Along the top side, you've got your home icon. So if you're on any screen outside of the home screen, push there to get back home. You can tap your clock there in order to adjust your clock settings. Along the top right side, it's your current connection level, and then the outside temperature. You've got your media, if your phone is connected, settings, apps, and then all of your climate control settings are now baked right into the screen. So I know some people aren't crazy about that idea, but one nice thing is that you can hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel if you wanted to be able to set your temperature and a number of other things. So while you don't have the physical tactile buttons anymore, the majority of things can be controlled using your voice. There's the option for heated first row seats inside of most trim levels of the ride, along with a heated steering wheel. You could adjust all of your climate control settings here. Do you want to go into windshield face feet, turn on your heated side view mirrors, and then you've also got the flexibility of adjusting out your fan speed along the bottom right side. So let's dive in and I'll take you line by line here, starting off with your media. So media, you've got sources, so AM, FM, SiriusXM, and Bluetooth. If you had a USB stick with some MP3s on there, you could plug yourself in down the center stack there, and that's just going to take a second. There we go. USB audio is available too. Look at that. You can browse your USB stick. Now, one thing, so this stick does have, there we go, MP4 and AVI files. So these are video format files. You can listen to the audio for video files, but you just can't actually watch video through this screen. So it doesn't have support for video playback using USB audio. Moving out to AM, so whether you're AM, FM, SiriusXM, you can see all of your presets along the bottom there are a mix of all of the above. If you wanted to set your own preset, just tune to whatever station you want to, so you can tune a few different ways. You can tune this way. If you wanted to do it that way, you could. When you've tuned to the station, you're just going to push and hold in order to overwrite. So you can't delete presets, which is odd. You can just overwrite them. If you move into sound settings, that's going to give you a few other options. But before we get there, you can also seek out stations this way. You can do a fine tune this way or voice command prompt. 97.7 FM.
Tuning to FM 97.7.
You can also use your voice in order to tune out stations. So that's one nice thing about the system is that you can control the majority of things using your voice. Now from there, if you hop into SiriusXM, that gives you a few other options. So you can play pause because we're looking at live radio. You could change between stations this way if you'd like to. You can start the song over. And then if you're a big fan of either the song or the artist, if you hit this little bell icon, that's going to bring you to this screen. Then you can make a notification for either the artist or the song. So when that artist or song comes onto any SiriusXM station, you'd get a notification giving you a heads up. You can go into some advanced audio settings this way, and then some finer settings this way for SiriusXM. So you've got all of your advanced settings. Let's see, block explicit content, tune to start, nothing overly exciting except for preset pages. So at a very minimum, you can have one, but you can also do up to 5 individual preset pages here. And that is a mix of, as I mentioned, AM, FM, SiriusXM. It's so ridiculous. Now from here, along the outside, you've got a little split screen. So there's not too much flexibility here. You can switch to your trip 1, trip 2 counters, but you can also see all of that information inside of the cluster screen. And next up, we're going to add in a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Starting off on the iPhone side of things, all we're going to do is look for Ford Maverick to pop up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up, so you can hit don't allow. Well, I'm going to say don't allow because this is not my car. If it was yours, you could say yes. And you can stop here.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Oh, thank you. I do recommend turning on 911 assist because if you're in a serious accident, the vehicle can automatically dial 911. So it finished there. And like I said, you can stop here. So you can connect over Bluetooth for phone calls and for streaming audio, but you've also got Apple CarPlay support. That is wireless inside of the ride. It is backwards compatible, so you could use either a USB-A or a USB-C cable. If you're using a USB-A cable, just make sure it's got the data transfer icon there. So it has to be data transfer. But if you can't even get to this point, or if you're running into CarPlay issues, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on how you can look at some CarPlay fixes. But from here, all we're gonna do, tap Use CarPlay. Look at this. Let's enable. enable app projection, and it should just take a second there. Boom. Look at this. And we are fully connected to Apple CarPlay. Now, you've got this little split screen, but on the outside, you see these little arrows. If you tap that, look at that. Full screen Apple CarPlay support. I love it. You've got your current, time, battery, and connection levels. These are the apps that were open last. So your map application, your audio application, and then miscellaneous. So these are going to be dynamic depending on what you've opened up last. From here, you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze support, with Waze being my favorite map application. There's no pinch to zoom. You have to zoom in and out this way. But one thing I love about Waze is that if there's accidents, construction, if there are police pulling people over, so if there are speed traps, things like that, people are pretty good at marking that off. You can mark things off yourself. So if you notice that there's police pulling people over, if there's crashes, hazards, etc., you can give people a heads up. You can hit the little button here in order to get to your icon view, back to this home screen. So you've got the map that was open, search, and then your media that was currently playing. Media, you've got podcasts that are available. So if you're a big podcast listener, swiping across, you've got Hoopla, which is a library app. Live One is a radio app. There's YouTube Music on top of that. But CarPlay still doesn't have support for video playback. That's one thing I'd love to see, especially when you're stationary. You can kind of customize this screen. So if you tap on the settings icon, you can put yourself into driving focus, but you can also change out your wallpaper. So if there's a color scheme that works better for you and for what you love, look at that. Bright, beautiful, and blue. I love it. But you've got that flexibility of adjusting it out a little bit. Then you can also change out the icon layout. So on your phone, if you go into your settings, general, and then CarPlay, you're just going to find your vehicle. You can forget it, or you can customize the launcher. So let's say if you wanted to have your podcast near the top and a certain map application, along the top there, you're just hitting the hamburger icon and dragging them around, and that's going to let you adjust out the layout. Anything with a minus next to it, you can also remove it from the screen. So if there are certain apps you're never going to use, you can remove it, but it saves it at the bottom. So you could add them back in if you'd like to, but if you've played around with the layout too much and you really don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, there's a reset button. So you're just going to tap reset, and that's just going to bring you back to that default layout screen there. Now, if you do a light push on the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, that's going to bring you into the assistant for the vehicle. But if you do a long button push and hold, that is going to bring up your Siri assistant. So short button push is going to be the factory assistant. Long button push is going to be the assistant for your vehicle. If you hop back home, you can then tap in order to get back into CarPlay. Back home again, there's a little CarPlay icon there. You can also tap. And then if we hop back to the main home screen, if you hop into settings, you've got your phone list. I'm currently connected to the iPhone for CarPlay. I can then disconnect. So if I just wanted to be able to make phone calls or stream audio and not be connected to CarPlay, you can do that. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Sync4 screen in the Maverick. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you weren't on this screen, all you're going to do, well, if you didn't have a phone connected, you could just tap there, or you're going to hit settings, back to your phone list, and then just add a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
From here, you're just waiting for Ford Maverick to show up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. And do you want to allow access to contacts, messages?
Stay
No.
alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
And same thing that we saw on the Apple side of things. So Android devices are also wireless Android Auto. You can also use a USB cable if you'd like to, but let's just go ahead and enable. Look at that. On the device, welcome to Android Auto. So you're just going to tap continue. And 3, 2, 1, we are fully connected. Love it. You've got the same little split screen that we saw earlier. On the top right side though, if you tap these little arrows, that is going to bring you into a full screen Android Auto. I love it. So you can see here, you've got your current connection and your battery level. You've got a few miscellaneous applications, your voice assistants. You can tap your assistant that way to get to it, or do a long button push and hold on the steering wheel in order to activate your assistant that way. You've got Google Maps inside of the device along with Waze. So if you've got Waze installed on your Android though, and it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on how you can add it in. It's pretty straightforward. Hopping back brings you back to this little split screen, but you could also go full screen maps rather than this split screen. So if you tap the map icon, look at that, full screen. But one thing I love about Android Auto, full pinch to zoom capabilities. Beautiful, love it. From here, you can tap this to get back to that screen, back to this little icon view. You can't really customize the screen layout much. You can change around the icons because if you go into your device, you're going to search for Android Auto, just tap on Android Auto settings. From there, a bunch of options. If you hit Customize Launcher, that's going to bring you up to this screen. Anything with a check mark next to it, you could technically remove it from the screen, but I'm just going to add everything in there. And then you could also do a drag and drop in order to be able to customize the layout. Now, it's not dynamic, though, the same way it is on the iPhone side. So in order for these changes to come into effect, pop back home. You're going to go to your settings, phone list. You're going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. Then, if we hop into the icon tray, you can see there the changes that we made have now come into effect. So it's straightforward. Now, one neat thing is that it's the same thing that we saw on the iPhone side. You can tap here or there to get back into Android Auto. But if you go back to your settings for a second here, so we go Settings, Phone List, you can be connected to either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match. So let's say if you wanted to be hooked up to the Galaxy or an Android device or an Apple device, if you had multiple phones connected, one for phone calls, one for media. So it's either Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match of these four. If you tap phone settings, you could hit this little icon in order to look at some additional options. Tapping back and then delete is going to let you delete devices. And let's reconnect to the iPhone for a second here because I want to show you one more thing. Same idea. You can tap here on the iPhone to set a few different things, or tap back, delete, and yes. And that's going to delete the iPhone from the vehicle too. But that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. Hopping back home, that's the basics here. Now, if you did have factory navigation, it's what's known as connected navigation. So you'd have 1 year of navigation services. You do have to activate it through the Ford Pass app on your phone. If you want to know how to set that Ford Pass app up, check down in the description of this video. But you have, like I said, 1 year of connected service. So after the year is up, the navigation system essentially stays there, but it's a dead moving map that just follows you around. So you wouldn't be able to add in a destination, but that's where connecting your phone and going through CarPlay or Android Auto would come into play. But let's dive into some advanced settings. So starting off with settings here, you've got radio. So you've got your radio text or your available preset pages. And this button is dynamic depending on whether you're on your radio, so AM, FM, or SiriusXM. You can add in a phone and look at all of your sound settings now. So you can adjust out your tone settings, so treble, mid-range, and bass. What I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs. And while that song is playing, adjust it out until it sounds perfect for your ears. What I've found historically in the Maverick is that the treble up a point or two, mid-range and middle, and then bass cranked a few points sounds good to me, but that's going to come down to a matter of preference. You can adjust the balance and fade, so do you want it driver focused, rear focused, front focused, etc. Back to the middle and back out. Speed compensated volume, as you're going faster or slower, it can increase or decrease the volume for you. There are some basic vehicle settings. You can idle for 30 minutes max. Rear occupant alert, when you go to turn the vehicle off, do you want to get alerts, yay or nay? You could turn it off completely, and then also notification whether a child seat's been installed in the back. Benefit there, you turn the truck off and it's going to let you know to check the back seats. So you've got your serial number, remote starts available there too, so you can remote start through the fob. You can also remote start through the Ford Pass app, but when you remote start, what do you want to have happen? Do you want the vehicle to determine the climate, or is it based off of the last settings you had for the vehicle? Your heated seats and steering wheel, do you want the vehicle to determine whether or not those should come on? And then how long do you want your remote start to last? So 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And back again, the basics for wipers, so courtesy wipe. With that one turned on, if you go to use your windshield wiper fluid, what's going to happen is after the last wipe, it's going to go one more time at the end in order to make sure that all the excess liquid is cleared away. Basics for lighting, auto high beam is available here. Lamp delay, when you go to lock the vehicle, how long do the lights stay on for? And then basics for locks. Do you want the doors to automatically unlock when you turn off? The other one here, audible. When you go to lock the truck, do you want to get feedback letting you know that you've actually locked the truck? and then your remote unlock. So when you unlock using the fob, do all doors become unlocked or strictly the driver's door? So you can change that up based off of your own personal preference for safety. And then intelligent access. So there's a little hamburger icon along the driver's side door. So you can tap that in order to be able to lock the door or slide your hand in to unlock. Your clock, which you can get to through your settings down there, or tapping the clock along the top. You can change it out to either AM or PM. Do you prefer military time, like the 24-hour mode? You can have the auto time update for you, which I definitely recommend turning on. The only time you might want to turn that off is if you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one time zone to the next. There are some general settings. So you've got the option of adjusting your language, so English, French, or Spanish. You can change out your temperature unit. So do you want to be in, hold on, if we turn this on for a second here and drop it down, Celsius or Fahrenheit. And back, measurement units. So you can either go miles or kilometers. If you change that out, it's going to change out what's going on in the bottom of the cluster screen there. So you can see there whether you're in miles, kilometers, etc. And back, your tire pressure unit. Do you want to be in PSI, KPA, or bar? The touchscreen beep that we're getting. If you want to toggle that off, you could. And then you can also do a reset for two things. So reset Ford Pass. So if the Ford Pass app on your phone is giving you problems, you can do a Ford Pass reset, or you could do a full factory reset, which is going to wipe the screen and get rid of everything. But if you're running into issues like Android Auto, Apple CarPlay aren't working, the screen's frozen out on you, there is a way to do a soft reboot that I'll show you towards the end of the video. That's the basics of general. Next up is display. So your display, you've got the option of going to a calming screen. You can toggle that off. Now, there is also the option of going to a calming screen down the center stack here. So you've got a series of buttons. So your volume rocker, you can change between songs or stations, but you can hit this little guy. And that's going to bring you into your calming screen. You could adjust the brightness of the screen out if you'd like to, so brighter, darker, etc. And then there are mode options. So this is the daytime mode. You can permanently lock it out to the day or the nighttime if you'd like to. But when you're in the auto mode, it's automatically going to flip you between the day or the nighttime, just depending on how bright it is outside. I personally love the night mode, but it's a matter of preference whether you go one way or the other. There are some connectivity options, connected vehicle features, so you can share analytics and things like that with Ford, yay or nay. Definitely recommend keeping those off. You can also turn off telematics. Bluetooth is where you're going to toggle Bluetooth off completely or changing the vehicle name. So if you don't like it to be Ford Maverick, if you want it to be Mustang Sally, Bob's Ride, whatever the case may be, you can adjust it out. Let's see, wireless app projection. You can see your basics there, nothing exciting. Wi-Fi. So if you wanted to connect to a Wi-Fi network at home, you'd have that flexibility. And from here, vehicle hotspot. So the vehicle does have a built-in modem. You do need to have an active data plan through that Ford Pass app in order to be able to use this info, but you'd be able to use it as a wireless hotspot. So rather than running off of the data on your phone, you can connect to the vehicle. Mobile apps, I've never found that the mobile apps are useful. What I'd recommend there is just go use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Software updates are available. One thing that I'd recommend with the updates, keep automatic on, but turn on a schedule so that it's later on at night. So when you know the truck's going to be parked, because with over-the-air updates, it might take 3, 4, 5 hours to download and install the update. So you just want to make sure you do that at home. Then Ford Assistant. Now on the steering wheel, you've got your voice command prompt. If you tap that, that's going to bring up this list. But you can also have it listen for a wake word, and you can choose whatever wake word. So rather than hitting that prompt, you could say, "Okay, Ford," and it's going to bring up the voice command prompt for you. From there, you can have your advanced mode. I recommend keeping advanced mode turned on, and you might not want the command list, but your phone confirmation, do you want to call such and such person, yay, nay, and then your command list is this list that pops up. When you turn advanced mode on, what that's going to do is, let's say if you change stations, 94.9 FM. It just does it. So it doesn't give you the feedback that it's doing it, it just does things. And then you've got your command help. What I'd recommend is when you first get your vehicle, go through the command help to see what you can do, because there are a bunch of different things that you can do. So for your media, phone, etc. Into 911 Assist, recommend make sure you connect your phone to the vehicle, because if you're in a serious accident, it can dial 911 for you. And then there's Valet mode. So you can enter in a 4-digit PIN. Don't use 0000, use something difficult. But what it's going to do is it's going to lock out everything except for climate control. So you can make sure that people can't look through the screen until they enter that 4-digit number again. And that's, well, the basics. That's everything you need to know about that element of settings. Next up, you've got your features. Driving assistance is going to be one, or driver assistance settings. It's a pre-collision assist, so if the vehicle is going to potentially get into a collision, it can automatically brake for you. The evasive steering puts it into more like a hypersensitivity mode to help you get out of the way of a potential collision a little bit easier. Rear view camera delay. If you've got your camera going and then you go to start driving, it's going to keep that camera going at low speeds for a few seconds. And then driver alert. So if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. There are some basics for towing, nothing exciting there. And then your owner's manual. So if this vehicle didn't help out, or you need to know things like when to change your oil, if you're doing it yourself, fuel economy, things like that, you can search the digital owner's manual. And this is going to give you all the information that you might need. So there's a visual search, bookmarks and videos and things like that. So you can see if you're getting weird messages inside of the cluster screen, etc., you can look through to see what's potentially available. There are some apps available here. You can find apps. There's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and YouTube. But the downside is that you do need to have an active data plan for this to work. So typically you're going to have 1 year of connected services, but there are monthly, yearly plans available. So if you wanted to watch YouTube, if you had factory navigation available, etc., you'd have that flexibility. So YouTube is the only video app that's playable, but you still have video playback support. And down the middle here, you've got your volume rocker, change between song stations, your calming mode, 4-way blinkers, defroster, and then the auto hold setting. So with the auto hold setting enabled, if you're in drive, you come down to a complete stop, take your foot off the brake, the truck is not going to move. So there, your push button start. There's a 12-volt power point, USB Type-C and a USB Type-A charge port and a data transfer port. There's the option for a wireless charge pad. You've got your rotary dial shifter, parking brake. You're going to pull up in order to turn the parking brake on. You're going to hit the brake, push down in order to turn it off. And then if the screen's giving you problems, like let's say Apple CarPlay's not working, Android Auto's not working, or there are other screen issues that you're getting, you do have the option, as you saw earlier, of doing a full factory reset. But that's going to get rid of everything on the screen. So it'll get rid of your presets, phones that you've connected, etc. You could also do a soft reboot. In order to do it, you're using a few different buttons along the steering wheel. So you're going to hit the volume down button and the right seek button. So the buttons on the left side and the far right side of the bottom of the steering wheel. You're going to push and hold those for about 10 seconds, and then eventually you're going to see the screen going nuts, but it'll power off, and then it's entered a soft reboot cycle. So what it's doing is it's essentially clearing the cache. It would be very similar to you doing a reboot on your cell phone. And after a few seconds, it's going to relaunch, and you're set to go. You've got your traction control button, and then turn the auto start stop system on or off. The Tremor version of the Ride is also going to have some more advanced options this way. You've got some cup holders, a little bit of storage with an armrest that has a great amount of space. The glove box in the Maverick is non-lockable. Up overhead, the XLT has a manual dimming rear view mirror. Overhead from there, control all of your cabin lights. And this is available as an option in most trims. So you've got a little moonroof. Nice. So single button press opens it up most of the way. Secondary press is that last little bit. There's a little bug guard there. That just opens things up so nicely. From there, you've got a little ticket receipt holder. On the outside, and on the inside, vanity mirror. So this has no lights built in, but the mirror's at least there. And then this little feller stretches out. That's going to block all of the sun that's hitting your face. But Ford did a pretty good job on the redesign there. They've essentially taken the infotainment system from the Escape, along with the cluster screen from the Escape, and they've put it in the Maverick. It's nice. And there are different drive modes that are available. You'll have more modes inside of the Tremor version of the Ride, but your basics like slippery, normal, sport mode, which is my favorite, dedicated towing there too. That's nice though. And then, one other thing, right on the top there. No sunglasses holder overhead, so you're just looking at little storage tray up there. And let's take a peek at the second row. All right, so you've got that same blue highlight, a little bit of bottle storage along the side. On the inside, same cloth seats. Hopping in. So With the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall, the way that I would traditionally drive, I've got some knee space, some foot space, and head space with me sitting fully upright, 3.5 inches, which is good. Now, three full-size adults sitting in the second row might be a little bit tight. The only reason being is because there is, I should say, a little hump in the, yeah, that's gonna be tight. Oh, let's do it, why not? Oh yeah, that's tight. So this seat is as far back as it's gonna go, but as you can see there, like that's tight. I can fit in the middle seat at least, which is nice, but it is not overly comfortable. You drew the short straw though, and you're okay if you're 6 feet, maybe a little bit taller. But if you've got little ones, all of the anchor points are there, and then the top tethers are behind the seat. I'll point that out in a second. You've got some cup holders that are built right in. On top of that, you've got a little map pocket behind the passenger side, but nothing along the driver's side. Down low, there are some USB Type-C charge points, along with a 400-watt wall plug in the back. Simple. Up overhead, you're going to find a little handle and a hook along the passenger side. There's an overhead light. That's the same thing here. So a little handle and a hook. Nice. Now, if we look on the side here, so down low, you've got this little tab. So pulling that, so this is unchanged year over year. Once it's up, it's actually locked into place. But down low, you've got some storage. So you've got your little white spigot there. So if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can, you're putting that there first. A good amount of storage down low. Like I said, so this is locked up. So in order to be able to drop it, pull that tab, down she goes. And then there's another tab along the top of the seat there. Pulling that is going to show you all of your top tether points if you need it. And then there's also going to be the jack stand. So if you ever want to change the tire out yourself, you've got the flexibility to do it. So I did mention the spare tire is underneath the truck. So you could change the tire out yourself. The jack stand is there. You do also have access to Ford roadside assistance. So if you pop a tire, puncture a tire, run out of fuel, if you need winching services to a degree and things like that, you do have that available as a Ford owner. The rear end style of the Maverick is unchanged year over year. You're going to find the Maverick badge running through the middle, the blue forward oval surrounded by a nice glossy black highlight, and then there's a backup camera there. You are going to find the option for the reverse park sensing system in some trim levels of the truck. Again, XLT doesn't have that available as an option. Towing inside of the Maverick is possible, so you're looking at either 2,000 or 4,000 pound towing capacity. If you want the max possible towing capacity, you do have to look at the 4K tow package, transmission cooler and other things which help give it that max towing capacity. But if you do something aftermarket, you are going to be limited to 2,000 pounds instead. We've got the 4-pin wiring harness here with the optional 7 when you get that 4K tow pack. And then you've also got the spare tire that's located right underneath the truck. Getting into the bed of the truck is straightforward. There is the option for a power lockable option, or you can lock it from the key fob in the back there. The only bed choice that you're going to find inside of the Maverick is this one. It's 4.5 feet. And that's the max you're looking at. So if you need a bigger bed, you are looking at either the Ranger or the F-150. And this one is completely naked. So there hasn't been a drop-in or a spray-in bed liner added. If you've got the choice, I would go aftermarket through Line-X. It's about twice as thick as the factory liner, and it also has a lifetime warranty, so it's kind of a no-brainer. Looking at payload inside of the Maverick, you're maxing out at 1,500 pounds. Inside of the Tremor, your max is 1,200 with a little asterisk. And that asterisk comes from how you have the rest of the truck configured, because everything you add on subtracts from the maximum allowable payload. If you're looking at any Maverick on any dealership lot, on the first row door jamb, you're going to see the max allowable payload for this specific build. But then if you start adding things in, like you add in a tonneau cover, you add in a bed liner, things like that, they all have a net weight. And eventually that net weight is going to subtract from your maximum allowable payload. If you're pulling a trailer with a 300-pound tongue weight, that takes 300 pounds off of your available payload. So those are all things you have to consider. So if you really start nickel and diming your payload capacity inside of your Maverick, you might have to look at the Ranger or an F-150, depending on how much you need to tow and what your total payload is going to be. As for bed features inside of the truck, along the right side, you're going to find a tiny little storage area. And then along the left, you're going to find a button to turn on your bed lighting. And then there's also that 400-watt wall plug, so an inverter back here. And that's going to be part of the XLT luxury package. And you're going to find that in different trim levels of the truck. I do like all of the different options you've got to change this bed out and modify it to really suit you. Dividers, bed extenders, and things like that, based off of what you want to do. Filling up fuel inside of the Maverick is done just along the driver's side. As always, it's an unlocked cover that has a capless system with anti-siphon technology built in. Looking at the fuel quality, minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just 87 octane, so just regular gas is all you need to use inside of this truck. Having said that, the horsepower and torque specs that we were looking at underneath the hood are all achieved using a 94 octane. Do you need to use a 94 or a premium fuel? Absolutely not. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just regular 87. It's just that if you want the best possible performance, I'd say especially if you're in the 2-liter, you might want to look at an 89 or a 91. It's just not necessary. And then the overall fuel economy inside of the ride is pretty good. You're obviously going to get way better fuel economy in the front-wheel drive hybrid compared to the 2-liter all-wheel drive version, but you get pretty good economy regardless of the version of the truck you're looking at. And that was everything you needed to know about the 2025 Ford Maverick. You can find all of the build details for this truck, the contact details for Formula Ford, and then build links to Ford Canada and US down in the description. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful, and until I see you next time, take care. This one is in awkward white. Getting into the trunk, and then you've got the spare tire, which is located just underneath the trunk. Under the trunk. It's completely naked, so there's no, ooh, that's wet. I was like, why is my ass getting wet? Damn it. So, do you need to use a premium fuel? Absolutely not. For and that was oh my God.